So this was the equation that you had for your do now. We're going to identify parts of the equation. So this letter here, x, is your variable. The number that's in front of the letter is the coefficient, and that's either multiplied or if it's written like 2, it's written like x over 2, it's divided. And then the number that's just by itself, that's either added or subtracted, is the constant. So we learned how to solve two-step equations. And the first step is to add or subtract the constant, and then multiply or divide by the coefficient. And make sure you simplify and check signs at the end. Our first problem here says negative 3x plus 12 equals negative 36. So the first step was add or subtract by the constant. So we circle our constant, which is positive 12. And to move it to the other side, we have to do negative 12. Do that to both sides. And we're left with the negative 3x equals 24. Then the next step is to multiply or divide by the coefficient. So if we have negative 3x, that means multiplication. So to move it, we're going to use division. We'll divide both sides by negative 3. They'll cancel out. We're left with x equals. And 24 divided by negative 3 is negative 8. Positive divided by a negative is negative. So our final answer is x equals negative 8. For the next one, our constant is a negative 4. So underneath, we're going to do positive 4 to both sides to cancel them out. We're left with x over 5 equals 6. 2 plus 4 is 6. This is division. So to cancel it out and move it to the other side, we have to use multiplication. So we're going to multiply both sides by 5. And we're left with x equals 6 times 5 is 30. So that was your basic two-step equations. When you see ones that are like this, you can't do anything with the top problem until you first multiply both sides by that number that's underneath that the top is being divided by. So we're going to multiply both sides by 6 to free up that top part. So up top we had 5 plus x equals negative 1 times 6 is negative 6. Now we have a constant over here, so it's a positive 5. I'm going to do negative 5 underneath to move it, and I'm left with x equals, I have negative 6 minus 5, or negative 6 plus negative 5, and that is negative 11. Same sign sum, answer stays the same. And the last one over here, we have v plus 9 over 3 equals 8. I want to move that 3 underneath there, so I'm going to multiply both sides by 3. And I'm left with v plus 9. 8 times 3 is 24. I have a constant right here, so I'm going to subtract 9 or do a negative 9 underneath both sides. I can bring down my v equals, and 24 minus 9 is 15. This is where we have to use distributive property. We have a number out in front of an operation that's inside parentheses. So this 2 needs to get distributed to everything inside the parentheses. So we have 2 times a plus 2 times 3 equals negative 12. I multiplied that 2 by the first term and then the 2 by the second term to distribute it. So we have 2a plus 6 equals negative 12. So now positive 6 is our constant. We'll do a negative 6 underneath to move it. We're left with 2a on this side We have negative 12 minus 6, or negative 12 plus negative 6, which is negative 18. Number next to a letter means multiplication, so I'm going to divide both sides by 2 to cancel that out and move it, and we're left with A equals, we have negative 18 divided by 2. The answer to that is negative 9. And the last one over here says 3 parentheses p plus 2 equals 18. So that 3 is going to get distributed to everything inside the parentheses. So we have 3p plus 3 times 2 equals 18. 3p plus 6 equals 18. Positive 6 is our constant, so I'm going to do negative 6 underneath to both sides. I have 3p equals 18 minus 6 is 12. Number next to a letter is multiplication, so I'm going to use division to solve it. And I'm left with p equals 12 divided by 3 is 4. Sometimes we'll have like terms that you have to combine on one side of the equation before you can go ahead and solve it. So that becomes the first step. Combine like terms without crossing the equal sign. So you can do it on the left side and then you can do it on the right side, but you can't go across the equal sign without doing inverse operations. And that's what these next two steps are. That's when you cross the equal sign by doing inverse operations, starting with either adding or subtracting the constant, and then you multiply or divide by the coefficient, and then finally you're going to simplify and check signs. So let's see what that looks like. Our first problem says x plus 2x minus 5 equals negative 10. So if I look at my problem, I have x's here, and then I have a number here. That is only on the left-hand side of the equal sign. So x plus 2x is 3x, and then I have a minus 5 equals negative 10. Our constant is a negative 5. To move it, I'm going to do positive 5 underneath both sides. I'm left with 3x equals, then I have negative 10 plus 5. Different signs find the difference. Answer gets the sign of the larger value. So I have 3x equals negative 5. Going to divide both sides by 3. And I'm left with x equals, so that's negative 5 over 3. It doesn't go in evenly, so we can think about writing that as a fraction. 3 goes into 5 one time, and there's 2/3 left over. Or if you do it in your calculator, you'll get 1.67 negative. And if we look at the next one over here, negative 4n minus 8n plus 17 equals 23. I have some n's in here that I can combine. So I have a negative 4n and a negative 8n. So we have negative 4n plus negative 8n gives me negative 12n plus 17 equals 23. My constant is positive 17, so I'm going to subtract 17 from both sides. And we're left with negative 12n equals 6. Number next to a letter is multiplication, so we're going to use division to solve it. And I'm left with n on this side. Now I have 6 divided by negative 12, or 6 over negative 12. And if we think of that in terms of a fraction, we can simplify it to be negative 1/2. Or if we put it in the calculator, we get negative 0.5.